when you look back through history, the turnover battle is always the most important aspect to every single game, and that's why we harp on the young quarterbacks. We harp on the older quarterbacks. When you make decisions and those decisions turn into interceptions, they turn into fumbles, they turn into all sorts of crazy things that happen around you, you really put your team behind the eight ball, meaning that it's very difficult to win those games when as Josh Allen put it yesterday after the game, your quarterback is playing like bleep. And I have to say that you're right. This is the signature win for Rob Saleh. And it's really, it's about their defense. And their defense has been good. But up until yesterday, they hadn't really faced a real quarterback. Now, yesterday, they faced the number one offense in football. And they got after his ass. And I'm like, man, I haven't seen the Jet defense like this since Rex Ryan was here. And it seems like it's fast, it's furious, it's physical. And I know that on the broadcast yesterday, the guys were talking about C.J. Mosley and being back in the middle of that defense. And he's the one that sets the tone for it. And I agree with that. I really do agree with that. And he's unquestionably the player that they wanted to see when they signed him as a free agent from Baltimore. You know, he missed the 2020 season. The season before that, he got hurt like in the first game or second game, whatever it was. And now we're finally seeing the true C.J. Mosley on that defense. And that defense is ferocious. They're flying all over the place, and that's great. And now when you get to the quarterback side of things, you know, I have to say, you know, all right, Zach, we now know you can do it. We know that you can do it. We've seen you do it, and we've seen you do it for 4 quarters, which is, you know, it's a beast. It's overwhelming at times, and sometimes you do lose your focus, whatever you need to do to refocus yourself during games, to play like he did yesterday. And I'm not sitting here saying that he threw for 350 yards and did what Tua did up in Chicago, but I am saying that, you know, as a young quarterback playing a solid game like that, with the defense that you have and a running game that you had yesterday, that is the recipe for the Jets to win. And now they can believe that they can beat really good teams. Now we got to see it, you know, consistently. And their next game will be in New England after the bye.
Which they're all talking about because they really felt like they let one get away against the Patriots last week, as we felt they did too. Should have been up 17-3. We know how the game went, but you know, they said it right after the game. They said, we'll see him in 2 weeks. They were asked about after this game. They can't wait after the bye. So it feels like a really, really big revenge situation for the guys in that room. And I think the great thing about Zach Wilson, what you saw yesterday, we saw him be able to win a game where he didn't have to do too much. But I really feel like there's another gear in there, another step in there for him with the talent that he has. You know, he is not a guy that I look at who's like Ryan Tannehill, and that's as good as he's going to be, where he can win a game like that, game managing, whatever. He's someone who has that talent to really take it to the next level. That's the next thing we need to see this year, but I don't want to put too much pressure on him now after this game, but this is exactly what we needed to see. He didn't lose a game for him. You know, he threw the ball out of bounds when he needed to. There weren't horrible throws. He made plays when he had to on third down. He ran the ball. I mean, he wasn't going backwards. He was going forwards. All the stuff you needed to see get cleaned up got cleaned up.
Well, you got to give the coaches credit for that then. If you're going to hammer the coaches for his loose play last week, then you have to, you have to basically say, you know, give the coaches props for talking to him and working with him this week, and then also to Zach himself for working this week and getting it right and dealing with the noise, you know, dealing with all the outside stuff that goes on. Look, these kids know what's happening. They know what's being said. They know what's being written to them. They, you know, as we know, as we have found out in many different ways over the last week that social media is a sewer pit, and it's a sewer pit of negativity. And these kids nowadays are, you know, they're basically being just tortured with it. You know, it's kind of interesting. I forget which game it was. They were talking about one of the coaches, how he has to give the players telephone breaks. And I forget which game it was. You know, I'm knee-deep in every game yesterday doing all the updates and all that other stuff. But there was a coach that actually says, you know, you got to coach differently now. You got to give guys, you know, telephone. Maybe it was Chris Collinsworth last night who said it about maybe Andy Reid readjusting to today's player and all this other stuff, that they actually do give them telephone breaks.
Didn't Jim Tom Sula say that when he was out there, the coach of the Niners that one year?
He did, and he made it a point to bring it to the forefront.
Right.
I mean, I think it's better that you don't bring stuff like that to the forefront, but it also goes to show you the changing ways things are happening in the NFL, if in fact that was accurate about, I believe it was about Andy Reid last night. But I don't know, you know, to me, these kids are under an enormous amount of scrutiny. And yesterday on the NFL Today, I was talking. I opened the show up saying there were 4 first-round draft picks from the 2021 NFL Draft that were playing in our 1 o'clock window. It was Zach Wilson, it was Trevor Lawrence, it was Justin Fields, and it was Mac Jones. And all 4 of these kids are under enormous pressure. And all 4 of them have been criticized. Is sunshine down there, Jacksonville? Is he the chosen one like everybody thought he was? What's going on with Justin Fields out in Chicago? And I feel like out of the 4 right now, the guy that feels like he's turned the corner going into yesterday's game was Justin Fields. And he had a great game again yesterday. He did something that nobody's ever done before. He ran for more yards as a quarterback than any quarterback in history in a game. But you could see that he's a bullet train. He's a runaway bullet train because he's so fast. But then yesterday also, Trevor Lawrence won. They beat the Raiders. And then Mac Jones won last night. And then, of course, Zach Wilson won. So all 4 played reasonably well in their games. All 4 won their games. And all 4 did not make the key mistakes that have been costing their teams their games. So that's a good thing. That's a good sign. But for Zach, he was solid yesterday. That's how I would say you can win by playing solid. You don't have to win just yet by being, that $50 million guy that is going to camouflage wherever your weaknesses are because you're Cap. You got a really good team around you right now because of what you're making and where you are in your career. Just go out and do what you did yesterday, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, Justin Fields lost, by the way. All 4 of them did not win.
No, I know, but he played well.
Yeah, right.
But he played spectacularly.
Yes, he played. He's been much, much better the last couple of weeks. And the Jet fan needed to see this. The coaching fan and the coaching staff needed to see this from Zach Wilson. I think he needed to see it for himself and to do it against the Bills. I mean, I kept saying going into this game, this is not the week you want to get right or need to get right against what could be, and now I don't believe that they are. The Eagles are now head and shoulders better than them with the loss I saw yesterday, but what could have been the league's best team going into the game.
I will say
most complete team, at least.
The Bills were probably missing their most important defensive player, Matt Milano.
Yeah.
And, he's a guy that gets everybody in the right spots. He's the guy that calls the defense, and he's also the guy that makes 1 million tackles.
Yeah, but the Bills' offense was not good yesterday.
No,
the
Josh
Jets'
Allen wasn't good yesterday, and he even said
Right.
it. And he wasn't great the week before either against the Green Bay Packers, especially a couple of the interceptions that he threw in that game. I mean, like, the first interception he threw yesterday, I mean, you just had to be like, what?
Yeah, especially after all the momentum they had with the kickoff where you had man slip and then the ball right to Stephon Diggs. You think they're going to score a touchdown. It's going to be 7-0 in 10 seconds. That was a miserable interception. I mean, and the other one, too, the second one was even – it could have been worse.
And he should have had a third.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that just really speaks to the pressure that the Jets are putting on him. And I wonder if he's injured because they did do the elbow, right? An examination on his UCL on the sideline, and they pressed where that is, and he buckled to his knees. Now, I don't know. I'm assuming that was after the final play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he threw the ball about 50 yards in the air to Gabriel Davis, and that ball fell incomplete. And everybody's wondering, should have there been pass interference on Sauce Gardner? And I'm like, no. I mean, Gabriel Davis actually pushed off.
And Gabriel Davis didn't complain one bit. And you see so much of that, like guys getting up, going right to the official. Gabe Davis did not even complain; just got up, started walking.
You know what I liked about that? I liked the fact that the referees let them play.
Sure,
and I could appreciate that. But so I don't know what the long-term prognosis is with Josh Allen. Hopefully, it's nothing. But he certainly buckled. I can show you the video on the sideline.
Yeah, no, I saw it, and there was some talk that it was more serious than they were letting on, but we're just going to have to see.
Well, that Huff sack.
No excuses.
Right. That Huff sack
is
what did it, because it was it was on second down, because on 3rd and 21, he kind of throws a ball. He's got a wide open, I think, Steph Diggs, and he throws it in the ground. And then he kind of grabs his elbow, and then the next play was the 4th and 21, where he did
throw the ball down the field.
He did.
Yeah.
So he might have tweaked it, and maybe it just needed to calm down for about another minute or so before he could launch it again. But then I kind of believe that examination took place after the game was over on the sideline.
Yeah. And as far as if Josh Allen gets hurt at the end of the game or, they're missing important defensive players, I don't want to hear any of that stuff. Every team deals with this. The Jets, for crying out loud, they probably lost their best offensive lineman, Elijah Vera Tucker, and lost one of their biggest offensive weapons a couple weeks prior in Breece Hall as well, and found a way.
And the other thing, too, the combination of Robinson yesterday anyway, Carter and Robinson, that's the balance you want. I think
Yeah.
one had 13 carries, the other had 12, or maybe it was 13 and 14, whatever it was. But that's the balance you want back there. That's why you need two running backs. And then, of course, Zach takes off a couple times, and then Zach was pretty. The only negative thing, and I'm sure Rich Cimini will find this out too.
Elijah Moore.
That's the only negative.
No targets again?
No targets.
Is that a
again.
negative thing, though, really? I mean, it's not a negative thing for the team. It's not a negative thing for the fan base. Like, that's Elijah Moore's problem. They beat the Bills, for Christ's sake.
I know, I'd like to see him more involved. That's all I'm saying is I'd just like to see him more involved. And Denzel Mims made a couple nice plays. I mean, so maybe it takes a while for these kids. I'm not really sure. I don't know what's going on, but they won the game. You're right. And it's a great way to go into the bye week, man.
Oh, of course, especially when you've got the Patriots on the other side of that and you got a bad taste in your mouth from that first game. But listen, Elijah Moore's not going anywhere. The trade deadline is over. There's no other opportunity for him to go anywhere until the offseason. He's got to figure it out. I don't know if he ended up saying anything after the game that was controversial, but that can't be a thing. I mean, they're 6-3, and they beat a team that most people believe has a great shot of winning their conference and going to the Super Bowl. I don't want to hear anything from Elijah Moore yesterday, this morning, during the bye week, nothing. We're talking about a team that is on the rise here and that is giving their fan base, and gave them yesterday. I got a text from the great Sean Winters, said it's the best game he's been at in probably a decade.
Yeah.
This guy goes to every home game.
Well, it's because the Rex Ryan defense and personality in that team gave fans hope, and I think yesterday they saw a little bit of that. No, I think they've seen a lot of that over the last 5 or 6 weeks defensively, for sure.
Well, think about how bad the defense was this year and how good it's been. I mean, last year, how good it's been this year.
It was 32nd last year.
That's some of the worst played defensive games we've ever seen in our lives. That Indianapolis game where they got steamrolled, and to be from there to here in 1 year is remarkable. And you mentioned C.J. Mosley playing at his level, Quinnen Williams being the defensive player of the month. He also had a big play yesterday in the second half. So, I mean, these guys have just been – it's Sauce Gardner, what he has added. The secondary's been great. Jordan Whitehead, who got off to a bad start, has played really well the last couple of weeks.
Hey, DJ Reed's been great.
Yes. I mean, it's really remarkable, the turnaround.
It's just as long as the quarterback doesn't turn it over and have those – like bonehead plays like Josh Allen made yesterday. I mean, like you can't have it. And Zach's two of those 3 different interceptions against the Patriots were awful. And that's what made everybody sick to their stomach, because they felt like they let one go away. And it goes to show you, just if he plays this way, they're good enough to support him right now. He doesn't have to be the difference maker. He'll ultimately become the difference maker.
Well, you hope.
Well, he's growing into that. I mean, and you heard him after the game yesterday talking about making his quick reads, quick decisions, getting rid of the football. Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford both played in a game yesterday afternoon where it was about survival for the quarterbacks, because neither offensive line could block the opposing defensive line. These guys are running for their lives. And Tom Brady's getting rid of the ball in 2.5 seconds or less. And when you look at the game statistics, and they're going to see, okay, how many times was Tom Brady under pressure? And he dropped back like 53 times. And maybe like he was under pressure like 4 times. So you're going to think, when you look at those stats, that the offensive line played great and he wasn't really pressured. Well, the only reason he wasn't pressured was because he was getting rid of the ball and taking the pressure off of the offensive line. He wasn't holding it. And the only time he really held it was towards the end, the last couple series, because I think the defensive line of the Rams was exhausted from pass rushing the whole game. And it was hot and muggy and raining down there. But that's the thing that Zach was talking about yesterday. Getting his reads, making his decision, and getting rid of the ball. That will help your offensive line, and it'll also keep you from having those 6 to 7 to 8 second plays where you make the wrong decision.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.